Hello, and welcome to the turbulent world with me, James M. Dorsey, as your host. A recent opinion poll in Indonesia, the world's largest Muslim majority state and democracy, throws a damper on Israeli and U.S. hopes that Middle Eastern and Muslim states may recognize the Jewish state without a resolution of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict and the establishment of an independent Palestinian state. Even more concerning, the poll suggests that public opinion is turning against a compromise two-state solution that would see the creation of a Palestinian state alongside Israel, as advocated by an overwhelming majority of the international community, including Arab and Muslim states. The poll indicates that Israeli plans for a ground occupation of Gaza, Israel's US-backed devastation of Gaza to create an environment conducive to depopulation of the Strip, and its repressive West Bank settlement policy are driving the hardening of public attitudes. Depopulation and settlements increasingly complicate, if not make impossible, the creation of a Palestinian state alongside Israel, and reaffirm former Israeli Defense Minister Moshe Dayan's prophecy in the 1950s that Israel must live by the sword. Speaking at the 1956 funeral of an Israeli farmer brutally murdered by Palestinian militants, Mr. Dayan acknowledged the plight of the Palestinians. Still, he insisted, this is our life's choice, to be prepared and armed, strong and determined, lest the sword be stricken from our fist and our lives cut down. Mr. Dayan's warning articulated Israeli policy from the outset. The Indonesian poll is the writing on the wall, indicating that life by the sword will be increasingly difficult to sustain in a world in which Israel has squandered its reputation, international standing, and whatever goodwill it enjoyed because of its conduct of the Gaza war, West Bank policies, and refusal to recognize Palestinian national rights. The poll suggests that the future of the rulers and governments of Middle Eastern states and stability in Muslim majority countries is likely to be partly contingent on their stance in the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, given mounting public anger in the Muslim world and beyond, and hardening attitudes towards Israel. In the short term, the poll suggests that, like Middle Eastern states, Muslim majority countries are unlikely to extend Israel a helping hand in extricating itself from the hole it has dug for itself with its war conduct and rejection of Palestinian rights without a fundamental change of Israeli policies. As a result, the hole is likely to become deeper as anti-Israel international public opinion solidifies and Israeli policy forces Israel to take responsibility for the well-being of Gaza, including rebuilding a minimum of basic services and infrastructure that it destroyed. Adding fuel to the fire, an Israeli ground occupation of Gaza will likely mire Israel in an energy and resource-draining war of attrition in the Strip that will engender widespread empathy in the Middle East and the broader Muslim world. To avoid the pitfalls of its policy, Israel needs the assistance of the international community, particularly Middle Eastern states and the Muslim world, including support for a credible post-war Palestinian administration of Gaza, backed by a multinational peacekeeping force. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said as much in a recent Fox News interview. We don't want to keep Gaza. We want to have a security perimeter, but we don't want to govern it. We don't want to be there as a governing body, Mr. Netanyahu said. Ultimately, Mr. Netanyahu said, Israel hoped to hand Gaza over to Arab forces that will govern it properly without threatening us and giving the Gazans a good life. The Indonesian poll suggests that beyond Arab states refusing to become instruments of Israeli designs, Muslim majority states are unlikely to engage without linking engagement to a credible and equitable pathway to a resolution of the conflict. That hasn't prevented Indonesia from agreeing to accept 2,000 injured Gazans, including their families, for treatment in a medical facility that is being readied on Galang Island off the coast of Sumatra. Careful to ensure that the gesture is not perceived as acquiescence to Israel's depopulation policy, Indonesia insists the Gazans would return to the Strip once they have recovered. By insisting on the return of the Gazans, Indonesian President Prabowo Subianto is countering persistent Israel-inspired claims that his country could be the next Muslim-majority state to recognize Israel and playing to domestic public opinion. Last month, David Barnea, the head of Mossad, Israel's foreign intelligence service, unsuccessfully tried to persuade the Trump administration to offer incentives to Indonesia, Ethiopia, and Libya to accept hundreds of thousands of Gazan Palestinians. Israel is trying to play with our expectation that everyone is waiting to sell out the Palestinians, which is part of history. And Israel uses that for what I would suggest is a spin and disinformation game. It wants us to believe that more normalization is just around the corner. So it will spread stories that Indonesia was in secret talks. It's about to happen. Utter nonsense. Not happening, said former Israeli peace negotiator Daniel Levy. Responding to Israeli-inspired media reports and Mr. Barnea's effort, Mr. Subianto said Indonesia would be willing to establish diplomatic relations with Israel once Israel recognized a Palestinian state. The Indonesian poll, conducted by Median, a Jakarta-based survey and research company, revealed that a majority of Indonesians follow news from the Middle East several times a week, if not daily, with an emphasis on the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Conducted in June, the survey showed a 10-point drop in public Indonesian support for the notion that both Israel and Palestine have the right to a state, with 30.2% endorsing a two-state solution compared to 40.5% in a similar survey in February. In the same vein, the percentage of Indonesians believing that only Palestinians are entitled to a state rose in June to 67.3%, as opposed to 56.9% in February. A whopping 74.9% of those surveyed in June argued that Indonesia should never establish diplomatic relations with Israel or recognize the Jewish state. A 2022 poll conducted by Saiful Mujani, another Jakarta-based research consultancy, showed 51% of Indonesian Muslims harboring serious misgivings about having Jewish neighbors. 57% opposed allowing Jews to teach in public schools, and 61% objected to Jews becoming government officials. In 2023, the Alliance of Islamic Scholars on the Javan island of Madura, a region with a history of intolerance, protested the participation of an Argentinian rabbi known for her advocacy of human rights in a summit of religious leaders organized by Nahdlatul Ulama, the world's largest and most moderate Muslim civil society movement under the auspices of then Indonesian President Joko Widodo. That same year, World Soccer body FIFA stripped Indonesia of its FIFA Under-20 World Cup hosting rights after the governor of Bali refused to allow the Israeli squad to compete in the tournament. The incident shone a spotlight not only on pro-Palestinian sentiment in Indonesia, but also on the at times blurred distinction between criticism of Israel and anti-Jewish sentiment. Similarly, Median's most recent poll serves as a bellwether for hardening attitudes across the Muslim world, with real-time consequences for Israel's efforts to destroy Palestinian national aspirations and involve Middle Eastern and Muslim states in its ambition to rewrite the Middle East map. Analyzing what the poll means for the Indonesian president, Indonesia scholar Leonard C. Sebastian and Median executive director Rico Marbun concluded that the greater danger for Prabowo is the loss of political support from his political Islam constituency if he pushes a two-state solution to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Indonesia is likely indicative of trends in Muslim public opinion rather than the exception that confirms the rule. It serves as a warning that a two-state solution risks becoming a double-edged sword, particularly for the rulers of Middle Eastern and Muslim majority countries. There is a very delicate position that many Arab leaders find themselves squeezed into. On the one hand, if they displease America, they are in some trouble. And if they displease their people, they will also have troubles on their hands. In a way, it's a Gordian knot. It's a very tough and contradictory situation, said former Jordanian Deputy Prime Minister and Foreign Minister Jawan Anani. Thank you for joining me today. The rise of artificial intelligence magnifies the importance of journalists with true expertise, top-notch sourcing, and historical depth. These journalists, like me, tell and analyze in-depth stories. Their goal is to enhance their readers' and listeners' ability to form informed opinions of their own. We don't just chronicle events. Our reporting and analysis are shaped by years of on-the-ground coverage, expertise, and historical knowledge. In my case, I have covered the geopolitics, the Middle East, and the Muslim world for decades, having been based in multiple countries, including Israel, Egypt, Saudi Arabia, Iran, the UAE, Lebanon, Kuwait, and Turkey. Hard-hitting reporting and analysis that lets the chips fall where they may is even more critical in a world of brutal wars, unimaginable humanitarian crises, and increasing authoritarianism. That is the turbulent world with James M. Dorsey's mission since its inception 15 years ago. Thousands worldwide are avid readers and listeners of the turbulent world. Join them in helping to maintain and expand the column and podcast by becoming a paid subscriber. You can contribute by visiting jamesmdorsey.substack.com and choosing one of the subscription options. Thank you for your support and loyalty. Take care and see you soon.